Hello, would you like to look at some of my old artwork? My old drawings? No? Oh, well. Fuck you! You're gonna look at them anyway. Ha ha! These, I dug these out while I was looking for some other shit. I forgot I even had these. This is a collection of... Oh, excuse me. Again, I just downed a load of shit. Old graffiti drawings. It's graffiti old drawings, not anything interesting if you're not interested in graffiti. But if you're interested in art in general and artists, and if you are a person who has spent years and years and years drawing and things, then this might be the kind of thing that interests you. Looking at old shit, seeing development and shit. Although there's limited development that you'll see because it's not like I've carried on drawing graffiti and shit. I talk about it enough. Have you heard about Sludge Life? It's this video game that you spray graffiti and it's pretty good. So I've had a few names, a few tags that I wrote over the years. These are largely from my Neds era. N-E-D-S. N-E-D-S. It's like a zombie. And I think this and a few of these, also for a while, sometimes I'd write Zs, Z-E-D-S, and I'd draw a zombie, because zombie, Zs, Z-heads. That's sort of how they're referred to in certain parts of zombie fiction and shit. And yeah, I just thought I'd take a little trip down the old memory lane, as they call it. I really like this one. You can see there's... I used to use pencils. Imagine that. The pen outlines of the letters are quite good. They're some quite good letters. I like the flow of like where the N starts small and then it sort of flows down into the rest of the... It's like a wave almost into the rest of the word. Capital letters for them, and then the E is a small e. There's quite a few pieces you'll see where I always like to differentiate the E, to have it like a separate object within the piece. Oh, that's a Z's one as well. Z-E. A small D and an S. It's a little bit... There's a lot going on. And it's one of those ones where it's like the idea's cool, but it's a little bit busy. You know, it's a little bit hard to see the actual forms. That's something I learned over the years of painting and drawing graffiti. Is there are times, I'll see if I can find any. I'm sure there will be somewheres. But you know, certainly early on, the impressive graffiti is like the crazy, what they call wild styles, where there's just shit going all over the place, bars and arrows and swooshes and curls, shapes and things, and you can't read it because it's just craziness all over the place. Early on, that's the kind of shit you want to do because that's the big impressive stuff. So you spend ages drawing these pieces, maybe painting them as well. But then I think... Not necessarily, but I have seen it in quite a few like prominent graffiti writers. I think your style kind of matures as you age, and you realise the important thing, or you not the important thing, but you realise the stronger importance of structure and not necessarily legibility, but like having the basic form of the letters be more of a prominent thing than crazy designs and stuff you can do around it. So, you know, there was times where I wanted to do loads of really complicated, detailed pieces like this, but then you get to a point where you're like, no, you can just have shit be more basic. N, a capital E, a small D, and an S. This is just a bit of a shape on the D to make it fit in with these curves. Try and match try and design letters to look like they fit together instead of being separated from one another. Some big throw-ups. A lot of these sorts of pieces were inspired by Twist, Amaze, the stuff from Barry McGee's book that we looked at the other day. That's quite a good little, like, almost a straight letter piece there. Some crazy, like, intestine. It's like a capital E, but it's intestine. That's 2 pages. Oh, shit. Wait, what? I don't know what I'm looking at here. It's a bunch of fucking shit. That's quite cool. Naughty Neds. See, because Neds, the word I wrote, is the Scottish term. I know I've spoken about this before, but I'm just for the new viewers. It's the Scottish term for chavs. Chavs being little violent criminal nippers that run around in tracksuits in England, going, "Give me your purse! I'll fucking stab you up, mate. What the fuck are you talking about? I'll fucking knife you, blood. Give me your fucking shoes, mate. Give me your fucking Nikes. You fucking what?" In Scotland, they call them Neds. I think Chav stands for Council House and Violence. And Neds, I think, stands for Non-Educated Delinquents. This is quite a cool one. I like the colours. This just blue and then a couple of tones of green with the orange outline. And then the sort of small E drawn in red over the big capital E. Nice sort of flow to it. It's quite a nice piece. I like that one. Blah, blah. Ooh, more double-sided shit. Neds. Oh, this guy. This is definitely from that time where I was like, you can see how I was drawing this guy. Was, I don't know. I was desperate to have a style. So I was trying to have a style in terms of how I drew people and stuff. And it made everything look bad. That's quite a cool piece. Lots of nice shapes, lots of nice circles, and some nice sort of designs in the background and stuff. And it's good to mirror things. If you can mirror things within a piece, it's quite a good thing to do. You've got these curls on the end and then these curls on the inside, and then it's like, yeah, that's a pretty good piece. Some nice letter forms here and there. I was pretty good. I never was like the best at letter forms, but I had some pretty good shit going on here and there. It's not bad. Well, this is cool. These are quite sort of space agey. I think that's what I was going for. It was like a space age vibes. Yeah. There's something sci-fi about it, and that's what I was trying to do. It's quite cool depending on where you're painting. If you're painting on a wall where you have access to the entire wall, it can be good to have the piece sort of sit on the floor. A lot of that you'll see largely when people paint trains, because you get the train stops and then the carriage stops and then there's the wheels and stuff. So there is literally like a bottom part to where you're painting your piece. So when you're designing a piece, it's almost a lot easier because there's this whole section underneath the piece that you don't have to worry about. Where normally you'd paint like this, so there's space all around the piece and it would sort of float in the middle of a wall. So you've got to think about, how it hangs and if you're going to have drips and 3D and shadows or whatever. But when you're doing pieces on trains, for instance, or if you're having it sit at the bottom of a wall, you can cut out all of this, so it's quite easy. A little bit easier because there's a bit less to think about, but also it can make for some nice pieces where these letters sort of like sit on a plane. Black triangle, just some weird sort of sci-fi shape. I quite like these letter forms. Like that's a capital N, a capital E, a little D and an S, and then same again, but slightly different with these orbs within the piece. I like this, like again, overly complicated. Like this bit isn't doing anything, this circle isn't doing anything, these are just decoration. These bars in the middle aren't doing anything, this curl doesn't need to be there. But it's design, it's decoration. But then this is like basically a simplified version. I quite like the black bar around the D. Again, just like have one letter, just pull it out. Usually it was the E that I did that with, but sometimes I'd give it the D. Oh, there you go. There's some of them wild style pieces. Not crazy wild style. Like, it's still fairly basic in terms of the letter forms themselves, but a lot more detail, making it look a lot busier than it actually is. This was that purple ink that I've spoken about before that's used in old cash registers to print receipts, and it's like some of the most permanent ink you can ever find. Yeah, I had a fat bottle of it that I stole from college because it was in the supply cupboard. There was just this big bottle of purple ink. So I took it and I used it. I put it in a mop. I tagged with it quite a lot. And I used to use it for stuff like this, with like a brush to ink drawings and things. I like that E, where it's like just a basic line E, but then given a bit of a 3D effect, along with my wispy wrappings of letters. Those are quite fun pieces. Some stuff, some tags and things. Tags and things and tags and things. It's quite a good one. Sort of copying Cause's style a little bit there, I think. And this is what you did. You'd have like a sketchbook like I normally have, but you'd call it your black book, and it would just be filled with pages and pages of this, and pages of this tags, like coming up with a new tag and practicing it again and again and again, like learning the words to a song. Like you've got to have it ingrained in your mind so you can just do it without even thinking about it. And I did have black books. I might have thrown a lot of them away because they were all like graffiti and therefore illegal or whatever, but I also draw on bits of paper a lot, hence all of these. And yeah, again, with the desperate to have a style, it's so bad. Just these horizontal lines. I thought, oh, if I add those in and use like very few lines for the hatching, all these bold horizontal lines, it will look like a style, a certain way of doing shit, but it just looks shit. It's quite a good bold piece. Nice colourful piece. This is one of my favourite colour schemes to do graffiti in. You get a light green and preferably a turquoise, and then sort of fade them into each other. Red outline with that is really, really nice. And then a super dark green border around the whole thing with, you know, little details and bits of shadow and stuff here and there. That's a really, really nice colour scheme. That's quite a nice piece. It's not the best ever, but it's quite a nice one in terms of shapes and stuff. But the colour on that one is one of the best parts. I don't know why these are stuck together. That's weird. Z's. And then characters and shit. I don't know. Whatevs. Oh, that was quite a cool one. I think I did that. I coloured it digitally at some point. So it says Z's. The bottom half is supposed to be like zombie skin. And then, oh no, wait. Oh yeah, so the E is like a zombie who's got like a sack over his head with a hole in it for his eye. And so, yeah, the bottom half was going to be like skin, and then the top half was like a sack over the top, and it's all torn and weathered and stuff and stitched together. And it says Z's. Z's. Another purple piece. I think that was a Z's piece, but it's just got random shit sticking out of it. I like some of the wibbly bits here coming off of it, like the wobbly lines and stuff. It's quite cool. The circles repeated throughout. Practicing them tags. Ooh, that's very different. Letters in frames. Oh, I think this was like where I had a failed exhibition of graffiti. I was going to have a whole alphabet all in random frames that I got from, again, copied from Barry McGee, obviously. I just got loads of random frames from charity shops and stuff, and then each one would have a different letter in, drawn in a similar style but in slightly different ways. So there'd be all these different... It was quite cool. I did do that piece. It looked quite good. That's quite cool. I like the shapes in that. N-E-D-S. Big, bold marker pen outlines and shit. About as simple as it gets, but Still pretty effective. I like that. I like some of my old stuff. Some of my old stuff's shit, but some of it's pretty good. It's quite a nice piece. I think that's one where you need the colour to sort of show what the fuck's going on, but not bad ultimately. That's quite a good one. That would be a big throw up. I did actually paint that on a wall near the skate park. That was quite a good one. Big yellow Ned's throw up with a black 3D bit. I think I was trying some space stuff there. And I like this because it's like the NEDS, a small n, or small, all of the letters, and the E is like a hollow space. Kind of. I thought that was quite neat. Ooh! And that's just a bunch of random shapes and shit. Kind of cool. I like some of the shapes, some of the shading and stuff. I think this is when I was sort of like trying to be good at cross-hatching, where I used like drawing pens, whereas now I use ballpoint pens almost exclusively. I think, yeah, I was trying to like render different tones and different shapes with a few different cross-hatching styles. And in some places it works, in some places it doesn't. And I think this is probably inspired by or stolen from about 3 or 4 different artists for different parts in different ways. I like this bit, this little like ribbon, fleshy ribbon floating around the piece. A few other little bits. More sort of... Oh, that's it looks abstract, but it's actually pieces. They're Ned's or Z's pieces, Z's. So it's almost like a tag there, made out of those fleshy ribbons. And then a bulbous slug-like tag. And then a slightly more, I don't know, fleshy, textured piece. It's quite cool, Z. But it makes one big sort of abstract shape piece. Or fucking something, I don't know. Speaking of graffiti... Oh, Jesus fucking Christ, what was that? Fuck. I don't know what's happening. I threw that down way too hard and I think something broke. And I don't know what. Sabre, Mad Society. Sabre is a very, very well-known, I guess, big in the game graffiti writer from LA, who is very well known and respected, I guess, in the world of graffiti painting. If you've seen, I don't know if you would have, but if you've seen the graffiti documentary Infamy, he's in that, as well as Ear Snot. It's a really good sort of documentary movie or whatever, Infamy. If you haven't seen it, you should absolutely fucking see it because it's very, very good. This is another book where I was genuinely surprised to see it. I found this in a Waterstones. Waterstones. Could there be a more British sounding bookshop? Waterstones is a chain of bookstores in the UK. And so in the city I live in, there were 2 Waterstones. There was one on the High Street and then there was one in the West Quay Shopping Centre. And the West Quay Shopping Centre was a bit meh, the Waterstones in there. But then the Waterstones on the High Street had 2 floors. You go downstairs and there's the art book section. Huge art book section. And every now and again they'd have just random books. I got my big David Cho art book in there, which I'd never seen anywhere else. Some Ashley Wood books I'd never seen anywhere else. Some other graffiti books. That Heracoop book I got in there, never seen that anywhere else. Only ever saw it that one time was when I stole it from that bookshop. And this was in there as well. Just like, I can't imagine ever seeing this book in a shop. Like, it's a really good book. It's a good graffiti book. It's a rare graffiti book. So to find it at all was so odd. And I stole it right away because I had to. I didn't have money for books back then. And then that bookshop got burnt down or burnt out or burnt. It got set on fire at some point, and now it's a shoe shop. As if I haven't had my fill of those over the goddamn years. But yeah, Saber is pretty insane. Like his style varies, but he's very, very good at what he does. But it's his style in terms of how he paints his pieces can be pretty crazy. Like the wild style pieces, like I was saying, where there's just so much going on, you can barely even... Like if you didn't know that said Saber, and if you didn't know sort of how to look at and read graffiti, you'd look at that and go, what the fuck is... That's just shapes. What the fuck is going on? But there's like an S, and an A, and a B, and an E, and an R. It does say Saber, but it's crazy. Crazy good. But it's not just the fact that he can paint crazy stuff like this, and even more crazy. It's also the sorts of places he paints. We'll get to it, but like on the freeway, there's him there, stood on like the inner bit of the bridge, GK and Saber. I don't know. I love this shit. I love looking at books like this. I know for a lot of people, looking at a book like this is probably really boring, because it's just like, yeah, it's graffiti. You get it. A lot of graffiti probably looks very, very similar to most people. Not to me, because I'm different from most people, of course. I'm one of the very interesting humans. I'm not like the rest of you. But as someone who has always had a great love of graffiti, this shit is ridiculous. So I'm not going to look at all of this shit, but there's what looks like a very young Saber painting a piece. Crazy wild styles. But then he's got some really decent straight letters and stuff as well, so... That's one of his paintings. He paints shit, which is a really good painting. He does really good lights, and like the lights in the sky, the colours and stuff. The way the area is lit up. I assume it's based on a photo, but it's very, very good. That's a really, really cool piece there. It used to be, like, back in the day, well, I mean, sort of how I kind of started drawing graffiti originally was a friend of mine in maths class brought in a copy of Graffitism, the graffiti magazine, which is a big, thick graffiti magazine. And I'd seen graffiti here and there, and I'd seen magazines and things, but not on this level. So he brought it in, and we were just looking at it, just enamoured, obsessed with it. And then we started like copying pieces out of it, like the crazy wild style pieces, which this really reminds me of. It was this sort of stuff exactly. And then we started trying to see who could draw the biggest, craziest, most wild style graffiti piece, which is certainly at that time, it's what we thought graffiti looks like. But then if you look back at it, it's probably absolute horse shit. But I absolutely loved it. I loved the I think Saber has even said the visual math of it all, of like trying to work it out, how to do it all, the structure of graffiti, the structure of letters, the colours, the design, every aspect of it is like interesting to sort of get your head around in terms of drawing and painting. Another one of his canvases, that's a really cool one, the LA River. And there's the whole section about the Los Angeles River, which is quite a famous place. Lots of movies have been shot there. I think there's a bit very similar to it in GTA San Andreas. Andreas, whatever it's called. Where it's the concrete banks, with like the river going through it. Little guy there, under the overpass, whatever. So your Saber has a lot of history with that place. But yeah, so drawing these pieces of graffiti, just getting obsessed with drawing ever more big and colourful and elaborate graffiti designs. But then that friend started playing guitar and stopped caring about graffiti, and I carried on, and I got into it. I started going out and painting and all the rest of it. And that's, at one point, I don't think it still is to this day, but certainly at one point that was the biggest piece of graffiti in the world across the entire sort of height of the bank. And that's him sat there. Tiny things. It's a close-up of him sat in his piece in the B, S-A-B-E-R, which is just ridiculous. So it was all painted with rollers and bucket paint, like emulsion or whatever. I'd have to read through the entirety of him telling the story about it. But I can't remember how long it took him ultimately. I don't know if it says anywhere. Yeah, but he took, like, I don't know, the best part of a year, I think. Maybe more, I don't know exactly, but something like that, of him going there night after night to paint sections of it, roller the paint out. And it's insane. I mean, painting anything big is just, it can be really tricky. But especially, like, to make it structured and balanced, and to get all the designs and the outlines, to have it all fit as one big piece. And because it's not just one, like, 2-colour throw-up or something. There's designs in it. There's outlines, there's 3Ds, there's highlights, there's borders, there's little effects and stuff. It's absolutely ridiculous. Apparently he wore out the cartilage in his knee from all the time spent on the slant of the concrete bank. And just had a whale of a time going back and painting that night after night. Absolutely ridiculous. But, I mean, he was already, like, an established and good credited, like, graffiti writer. But then you do something like that, that's going to become, like, a landmark of your graffiti career or whatever. Like, you will get known doing some shit like that. And because people had painted across the bank, but, like, just huge scale tags with rollers and stuff. But to do a piece like that, that's something else entirely. And then there's a bunch of other shit. Yeah, it's all good, I guess. I'll see if there's any particular standout pieces. Oh, that's where he was climbing over a fence, and one of the, like, iron spikes or whatever went into his tummy, which is pretty nasty. Another canvas. He's a really good artist, just in general. Like, the vibe of that is so strong, of like an LA city nighttime. The lights in the buildings. Well, I'd be so, like, again, he's obviously, not obviously, but I assume has taken it from a photo, so he's sort of somewhat colour matching, somewhat not. But, like, when it comes to all the lights in the windows, I would blatantly just do them all in the same colour. I'd just get one light yellow and just go, yeah, windows, fine. But he's got all these in, like, different shades of yellow, different brightnesses, as they would be in real life. And then the lights on the highway or whatever, the cars zooming past, to paint that in like that is really, really good. That's really impressive. I'm impressed. That's a really cool roller piece. He did a lot of those. He didn't necessarily... He wasn't the first one to use rollers, and certainly isn't the last. But, like, for that to be a roller piece, for the amount of detail... Usually, if people use rollers, it's for a huge, like a throw-up or like a big straight letter piece. Sometimes not even with an outline, sometimes with an outline or a 3D. You're just rolling paint onto a wall, sometimes as high as you can reach, as big as possible to cover as much space as possible. But then to take that and to do this crazy intricate wild style piece with rollers is it's quite something. So Saber was, he's big in the game for a reason. There are some people who, certainly in the modern day, they paint a couple of there's at least one or a handful of artists that paint memes, literally will paint memes on walls and get very famous for doing it, because the photos get shared online, like, haha, look, they painted a meme on a wall. And so people like that can get a huge name doing what they do almost overnight through people sharing their work online. But then there are people who earn their fame through putting the work in and just clearly having a love for the art of it, and they'd be doing that anyway, you assume, regardless of getting famous for it, because you don't put in this kind of work if you're only doing it to get famous or whatever. That's a nice wall. It's fun when several people paint and the colours all match and stuff. That's quite neat. And it can also be cool to see a wall like this where the colours don't match, but there's just so much shit going on. And this was the kind of shit that was in graphitism, like space mutants and all kinds of shit, flying spray cans and weird pieces with little monsters in them, crazy wild style pieces, where me and my friend would look through it and just be like, whoa, and then try and do that, and 3D letters and stuff. Yeah, it's insane. Oh, this is really, really cool. It's a whole series of pictures. Maybe they're screenshots from a video. I don't know if that exists or not. But where he's rollered the wall, thrown some paint on, then just done a big tag, and then a bunch of tags, and then what looks like a chrome and black dub over that, and then tagged that, and then another dub over that, tagged that, paint over it with a roller, and then tag on top of that, roller some colour in, use spray paints to turn that into a piece, do another throw up over that, and then repaint over that with another piece. That turns into this green piece, and then paint over that with some black and some red, and that turns into a bigger piece and a bigger piece and a bigger piece. It's a shame there isn't a bigger photo of the piece as it was finished, because it's really quite an impressive looking wild style piece. It's got good shape and good colours to it. But that's really cool. I've done that a couple of times on a canvas, but I think I saw other people do it, so I was like, oh, I'll try that, like at college. Or paint a picture on a canvas and then paint over it and paint another picture and paint a picture over that and over that and over that. Sometimes waiting for it to dry, sometimes not waiting for it to dry. And it's quite a fun thing to do. Maybe I'll do it on the podcast sometime. That could be fun, couldn't it? I'd get about an hour out of that, probably. Oh, some tits. Him and his pal Revoke in their apartment. Lads being lads, I guess. I really like some of his two colour pieces, because it's like the two colour pieces are done with the intent of your name being as big and legible as possible. Big, bold pieces, easy to see, potentially easy to read. So it's just your name that people can see you were here. And people do add in their style to it. Some people don't. Some people do really basic letters, but some people put their style into it. And I really like some of his two colour pieces, his lettering. Like his S's are really nice. The B's quite solid. I mean, that Revoke double two colour piece is really, really good. Lots of style in that one. If you don't like graffiti, then I'm sure this is all very exciting. But tough tits, I guess. Bunch of shit. Some sculptures, some metal wild style sculptures. That's pretty cool. That's decent. Painted with Norm. I like these. I've taken a few photos like this of some of my pieces. I don't think I knew about Sabre when I was doing that. I might have done it purely on my own. But like, because yeah, it kind of shows how much detail can go into some of these pieces, where this is just one tiny segment of it. But you get the texture of the wall, the texture of the spray paint, all the different lines and techniques and skill it takes to make just this part of it. It makes for some really interesting pictures. And two huge pieces, all done with roller paint. But then one is like a big, bold, almost straight letter piece, and then one crazy, sinewy, sharp, wild style piece. Well, it's not crazy wild style, but it appears more. And that's the size of him there. So the whole wall is just fucking gigantic. And I think that's two sides of the same wall, I think. Some of his fine art, his canvases and such, as we've seen, he's pretty good at just painting. Some graffiti on canvas. I'm always a bit torn about seeing graffiti painted on canvas, because it can make for some nice paintings, but it does feel a little bit like graffiti's not meant to be painted on a canvas. And you can almost take that and use the fact that it's not supposed to be painted on canvas, but you're painting it with brushes on a canvas. But it feels like, you know, don't take fucking graffiti out of its natural habitat and put it into a gallery. That always... And that's because I had a failed exhibition which was graffiti themed, and maybe that's karma. Like, maybe I shouldn't have had it be successful because I was trying to put graffiti into an exhibition space, which is... it shouldn't be. I should mention that's really fucking good. I believe this is supposed to be the devil crying because he misses God or something. I know a lot of girls online with tattoos and piercings that would really like this kind of thing. UFOs! Those are really cool paintings. Him doing his lighting effects, he's really, really good at those. These UFOs over the LA skyline. And a bunch of other shit. There's graffiti, you get it. People who have been around these parts for a while will know I grew up in very poor areas. We moved a few times when I was little, but each time typically we would live in quite poor areas, sometimes even in poor areas where we'd be next to really expensive houses, but they were literally built higher up. Like, we were on a lower piece of ground, and then right next to us there'd be the raised ground, and then the big expensive houses literally above us, looking down on us. But then all of that is to say, I was very often around chavs and Neds, if you like. I mean, I was effectively one of them. I was one of them. They were me. I was them, and they were me. So when I talk about chavs, I think they're often referred to as like roadmen nowadays. It's like that's a thing. Although I think roadmen is just like chavs that grew up but didn't grow out of being a chav, and now they're considered a roadman for whatever that is. Um, but yeah, it's part of it's all part of sort of who I am. It's part of how I grew up. So I do have, you know, they're part of me. I'm part of them. It's you could say it's my culture. A lot of people in England, like chavs and their ilk, are an easy target. Because people in general are very, very classist. They will talk about how they hate the monarchy and whatever, and you know, the billionaires and all the rest of it. But then they'll turn around and they'll shit on, you know, chavs and the working class and whatever. And it's just like, maybe you need to fucking sort your shit out and don't talk about people like that. Because there's a lot of crime in these, you know, poor areas, like council housing, council estates and stuff. And a lot of that is because they're in poor areas and they're sort of, it's the only place they can afford to live. So they've got to get by however they can. So yeah, there's a lot of crime. It's similar in a lot of other places in the world. It just is how it is. But I mean, I say that because I feel a kinship with chavs and with Neds and with, you know, council estates and that sort of thing. It was a part of me growing up. It's just, it was my environment. Though I know I sound like a posh twat because I do talk very British sometimes, but that's because I'm a cunt in my own ways. And I have to talk properly because reasons. But that's it's. I feel in my bones. I do have some attachment to council housing and the sort of culture that goes with it. And I like how they talk. I say blood a lot. You are blood. What are you saying, blood, man? Ah. I like the word blood. I use it often. When I see Sam, I call him my blood because he's my blood. Which is like, you know, like saying bruv, brother, bro. That's all blood is. Which it sort of makes sense, doesn't it? You are blood. You're blood related. In my head, it's BLUD. Because it's said quite blunt, like blood. It's not like blood, BLOOD. I don't know if there is an official spelling of that particular version of the word, but I like to think I'm pronouncing it BLUD. Anyway, multiple times in my life, I've spoken colloquial. That's the word I was thinking of. There, I forgot a word, but I remembered it. I don't know if there's a particular spelling for that colloquialism or whatever, but whatever. I forgot the word colloquial. But multiple times in my life, I've like taken on that affect, just in a small way. Just there's been times like in the shoe store, for instance, where someone said, "Oh, Ewan, can you just take care of this for me?" And I've gone, "Yeah, blood, no worries, I've got you. Safe, man. Don't you even worry about that, blood." And then that person has turned around and gone, "Oh, don't talk like that." Which is shit. It's a shit thing to say to someone. Like, maybe they'd be a little bit nicer if I just spoke like that in general, because then it would just be, oh, that's just how he talks, I guess. But then for me to turn around and suddenly talk like that, I guess they didn't appreciate it. But like, regardless, that's that talk, that way of communicating is part of how I grew up. So for someone to turn around, for a person in a position of authority, especially to turn around and go, ugh, don't talk like that, is so fucking, like, rude, classist. It's just a shit way to be. To just be like, duh, don't talk like that. Like, people will talk in memes and stuff. They'll literally speak in meme language. And I don't tell them to shut up. I'm like, oh my god, I can't believe you just said that. I can't believe you're talking in memes. I say, okay, well, that's how they choose to communicate. Fucking whatever. But then I got so mad at the dismissiveness of it, the condescension of it, because it does come across as classist. When someone says, yeah, blood, I got you, fam. And then you go, oh, don't talk like that. And so to that person in the shoe store, I turned around and said, fuck off. Don't fucking tell me how to talk. You can go fuck yourself. I didn't say all of that, but I did say fuck off, because they can just about fuck off. It's different to the example I'm about to give, because white, but it's not too dissimilar from, for instance, if like a black person says axe instead of ask. Like we would say ask is the proper way to say that word. But axe, something I learned annoyingly recently, is that's just part of like their form of language, their colloquial speech. I don't know if it's appropriate to use the word patois in this instance, but that sort of thing. So them for a black person to say axe, it's completely valid. It's not a bad thing. It's not an issue. They're not mispronouncing anything. They're just saying that word the way their culture uses language. That's part of that. It may as well be that's a separate, it's not a separate language, but almost like a separate cultural language, and the word they use for ask is axe. Like, so it would be similar. What I'm saying is if a black person said axe, let me ask you a question, and you turned around and went, I think you'll find the word is ask. You can ask me a question. You cannot ax me a question. That's not proper English. And that's insensitive, likely classist, and also fucking racist. Like, you just don't. Like, if that's how somebody talks, that's how somebody talks. You don't turn around and go, actually, I think you'll find. Like, it's a shitty way to be. It's just a shit way to behave. And, I spoke, I think it was last episode, about how I have changed as a person. And I think there may have been a time not even that long ago, annoyingly, where I would have thought that it should be pronounced ask and not axe. But now I'm woke. And now I'm okay with people of colour speaking however they want to speak. How dare I be so woke and disgusting to think such thoughts? But I don't know. This came up earlier today, in fact, in a discussion I was having with somebody about culture and about people from other countries saying the country they're currently in, if they're visiting somewhere, has no culture, for instance. So just taking an entire people and saying they don't have a culture, when really their culture is just different to yours. It's different to what you're used to. And so you just dismiss it and say, like, oh, this isn't the way it's supposed to be done. Why aren't they doing it the normal way, like normal people like me? And it's just a shit way to think. It's a shit way to be. It's a shit way to behave. It's just a shit. Just a bunch of shit. Imagine that. Imagine people in different places being different and acting differently and thinking in different ways and doing different things, having different customs and shit. Who would have bloody thought that that's the kind of shit that went down? Madness. Absolute bloody madness. But it got me like thinking about times when people have, you know, even an ex-girlfriend of mine did that once. And she lived in a... I don't know if she was in council housing, but she lived right next to a council estate. And so there was a lot of those types of lads around. Wee nippers in their tracksuits, carrying knives and stealing people's hats as they walked by. And so I can understand that my, at the time, girlfriend had some resentment towards those kinds of people. But there was a time when I think again, it was probably the word blood that did it. Where I said, yeah, blood. And my girlfriend was like, oh, don't do that. Don't talk like that. And it's like, I understand if you have like a resentment towards, and I understand the resentment because a lot of what's associated with like chavs, for instance, is crime. So I get it. I understand. And, you know, especially when they're like 11 years old and they're trying to be little gangsters running around with a fucking fish knife or whatever they've managed to steal from their mum's kitchen. It is a bit silly and a bit like cringe, but that's life, isn't it? You've got to let people be cringe. It's gonna happen. You just got to allow it to happen, and hopefully they won't be cringe all the time. But you also have to accept the fact that they might be. It is fucking is what it is. Don't tell me not to talk like that. If I want to fucking talk like that, I'll fucking talk like that. You cunt. Get ready for next week's episode where I do the entire thing and speaking like a road man, like a bad man. I don't know if I've got much more to say on that. It came up in conversation. It got me thinking about it. Got me angry about it. Angry that people that would get mad at me for speaking the language of my people. I mean, I don't know if I even consider myself to have like a people that I truly associate with on that kind of level. Because I've got Scottish heritage, which is cool, but, you know, that's where I take the Neds from. But I don't feel any great amount of kinship with Scots. I have Viking blood. I've got Norwegian family. And as much as I do like to hold on to that small percentage of my genetic makeup that is in a roundabout way Viking related, you know, I don't feel any great sort of kinship there either. It's just I don't feel like I've got a group I belong to, which in a way is good, because who wants to fucking belong somewhere when you can just be your own fucking person? Oh, I want to be part of the group, I want to be accepted. Says me, who spent some time, whatever episode it was, not complaining, but just saying how I want to be part of the art YouTube scene. I just want to be regarded. I just want people to, like I said, I just want to be part of the conversation. When people talk about YouTube artists, I want to be mentioned. I want to be thought of, at least. It would be nice. It's always nice to be thought of, isn't it? Like, it's not much, but it's nice. It's nice to be thought of. What are we drawing today? Woohoo! With the big fucking pink pen. Ba-doop-boop. I've liked these kinds of illustrations for quite a long time, where it's just like a bunch of, like, you might have characters, like a page of characters, maybe in a shape or in a box or whatever, and objects and stuff in between them, sort of filling up the gaps. And so I thought I'd do one of goblins and shit. There's a lizard, mushrooms and little skulls and knife, packet of cigarettes, you know, goblin artifacts. But this is also, I think I might, you know, there's like a two-headed goblin here. I'll put another guy here and another guy here, and then a bunch of objects. And I was thinking I could colour them in pink, but I think it might stand out more if I colour all the background in pink and leave all the objects and goblins all white and such. But this will also work for almost concept sketches-ish. Because there's a commission I'm going to be working on shortly where somebody wanted a wizard goblin. So this is like a goblin with a long beard and he's doing magical finger things. I don't know. That's what I do with your mum. Magical finger things. Ha ha ha. So this is like kind of a rough, loose idea of a concept sketch for that. One of the upcoming Goblin Fuckers trading cards, collector card series, of which number 4 is ready to go out. Gibby the Zonked. Probably not the next one, but certainly an upcoming one. Is going to be this mushroom guy. Maybe not this exact mushroom guy, but certainly like this. Got mushrooms growing out of his head, covering his penis with mushrooms. You got to keep it PG sometimes, you know. Because that's the kind of thing that, like, if I hide his penis behind a small cluster of mushrooms, some people might go, oh, Ewan's censoring his drawings. I can't believe it. Why wouldn't he just draw the penis? But in this instance, it's funnier to hide his penis behind mushrooms than it would be to just draw his penis. Because mushrooms are part of the overall thing. He's got them growing on him and around him. And so to have mushrooms growing in front of his penis, not attached to his penis, not necessarily attached to his penis, I should say. It's funnier to hide his penis in this instance. Sometimes censorship can be beneficial. I don't want to call it a good thing, because I don't know if censorship's ever a good thing, but strategic censoring for the purposes of art and humour can maybe be a good thing. I don't know. I just don't fucking know.